So I wanted to draw some Animal Crossing villagers by a certain species, and I wanted to start with the alligators, mainly because it's alphabetically the first villager species, and Alfonso is the first alligator in the list. So Alfonso is probably my favorite out of all the alligators. I had him in my New Leaf town, and I think he's still there. I don't think he auto-moved away or anything yet last time I checked, which is good. I'll be pretty sad if he does auto-move away. But anyway, he's a lazy alligator, and if I remember correctly, he used to wear a Mario shirt in the older games, and his design is supposed to represent Yoshi, but I don't really see it. I think his color scheme mostly reminds me of like the Kraft mac and cheese dinosaur or something. When I was drawing him, I knew I wanted him to just be chilling and eating a piece of cake because the wiki page about him mentions his love of cake several times, and I'm pretty sure the movie he appeared in also just shows how much he loves food. He's definitely a foodie, and I think the post turned out pretty cute. But it takes me a long time to really do the line art for these things. I enjoy using the chalk brush for line art, and often whenever I'm coloring, I just use like the regular round brush, and then I start shading with the pastel brush, which you'll see in a minute. His little his little like donut ring design is what it looks like to me, the little circles around his tail and nose. I personally love his color scheme and the hoodie that he wears. I think he's just a very chill overall character. But yeah, I'm starting with him, and then I'm going to move on to the other alligators, and then once I'm done with those, I'm going to move on to the anteaters. I'm going to try to go alphabetically and try to draw every single villager, but it's definitely gonna it may lead to burnout, but at the time I'm having fun doing these, so might as well just post what I can. But yeah, I really like how this one came out. So the next Animal Crossing alligator I'm drawing is Allie the Gator. And I honestly can't remember if she's really that popular of a villager, but she might be the most popular female alligator perhaps. I don't see a lot of people with Gail on their island unless they have an all-pink island, but I feel like I have seen a lot of friends that have Allie on their islands. She's definitely a must-have if you're going for an all-snooty group of villagers. She's iconic in that regard, with the eyeshadow and everything. So with that in mind, I wanted to draw her with a confident-looking pose, giving her painted nails, and you'll see that I try to paint her toenails the same color as well, but then I'm like, nah, I should just stick to the original design. Her leopard print shirt wasn't too much of a headache to draw. I just kept my patience the best I could, and also her Pocket Camp bio says she's all about the lipstick, so I wanted to make sure the lips were prominent and also copy-pasted a kiss PNG in the background. Her color scheme is very, very unique, and it took me a while to like get the full shape outlined, and then it wouldn't even let me fill it in with the paint tool, so I had to like fill it in manually. And honestly, it's weird to me that her claws are pink and not her feet. It just it feels a little asymmetrical. Another thing about her is that she just likes mushrooms for some reason. If you ever do her like vacation home in either Happy Home Designer or Happy Home Paradise, she's gonna ask you for mushrooms in her house, which is an aesthetic, but you know, it's very hard to make a design with just mushrooms. All in all, I think I shaded her pretty well. The lighting could have been rendered a little better, but it came out pretty good, I think. The next Animal Crossing villager is Boots, and right off the bat, it was already a headache having to draw an open alligator mouth. I wanted at least one of these drawings to have an open mouth because I didn't want all of them to look too similar. So I was like staring at references of alligators with their mouth open for a good while to make sure I would get this shape accurate. The biggest reason why I want to draw Animal Crossing villagers is so I can give them more of a proportionately accurate anatomy, and after I study a bunch of alligator pictures, I can sort of stylize everything with the stubby legs, longer tails, and the more defined head shape. But enough about that, let's talk about Boots. The thing that's interesting about him is that he was one of the villagers from the very first original Japanese game, and then he was completely absent for like 3 games before he finally came back in the Welcome Amiibo update for New Leaf. And I mean, he's cute. There's nothing really wrong with him. I'm mostly just confused on why he's wearing a jester outfit. The outfit is the only thing I can really settle on when I was trying to think of a pose for him, because there is nothing else about him that is jester related. He's a jock villager, his house looks like a dead farm, his dream is to be a sumo wrestler. Things just aren't adding up here. Like, why is the jester outfit the only memorable thing about him with like no other connection? I don't know. But anyway, he's a jock villager, so since he's a jock villager, I wanted to give him a very dynamic and flexible pose. and just having a sense of movement, you know? And going off with only the jester outfit here, I made it look like he was just singing a little song and doing goofy jester things, I guess. His color scheme is pretty great, though. It reminds me of Mardi Gras, which is a holiday that I celebrate in my home state of Louisiana. It has the same colors of green, purple, and gold, so I think that's a nice little nod. If he ever moved to my island, I would make sure that he actually had a carnival-themed house and maybe wore something. If not, I would just make him wear something different. I am not sure how popular he is with the community, but I have a feeling that maybe he's a bit too boring because he has the green color and that's the color alligators are, but I don't even think people care about that. I think it's mostly the fact that he's just a forgotten villager because he's been absent for so long. But it was fun having to shade everything, make it look pretty. I'm very proud of just the way I made the outline of the collar and the wrists look very shiny, like made it look like they were like lined with gold fabric or something, which was very fun. But yeah. So next, for the Animal Crossing alligators, we have Dell. This is the first cranky type villager that I'm drawing, so I want to make sure I capture the full cranky essence. But in full view, it kind of just looks like he's mildly annoyed, or just has the very chill, done with everything vibe. I actually had him as a villager before, I just can't remember what game. It was probably New Leaf. I don't think he stayed for very long. If you're wondering why I'm drawing his legs and tail in a very mechanical looking way, that's because he actually is kind of a robot. Or he's at least supposed to be very metallic looking. In New Horizons, you can even tell that his feet make metal sounds when he walks around. But more specifically, he's supposed to represent a Japanese battleship called the Yamato, which was used during World War II for the Imperial Navy. Yamato was also his Japanese name in the original game, but his English name is most likely short for Delaware, which means of the war, and a lot of US Navy ships are named after that. Also, his white and blue striped shirt is very similar to the shirts that are worn by the Russian Navy, so pretty much everything about him is a generalized reference to the Navy in some way. He even wears a full-on admiral outfit in his poster design. I think his color scheme is really nice though, beyond the references. He's probably a fairly popular villager to have on your island, as far as cranky villagers go, to be honest. Also, the reason why the background went dark there is because it's easier to shade a white shirt when the background is darker. But regardless, I freaking loved making everything look shiny and metallic because it's just a fun, very fun texture to play around with. I knew I didn't want to make it look too realistic because this is a cartoon after all, but yeah, I think I had fun with this one. I actually look forward to making the other robot villagers. The next Animal Crossing alligator is Drago, and he's not even a alligator at all, he's a dragon, so I'm going to be drawing him like one. He's one of those villagers that has the same model as a certain villager animal, but his design and color scheme are meant to represent a different kind of animal, so I find it more fitting to draw him as the animal he's based on rather than just giving him an alligator's body, because it helps make things more interesting. This is going to be the case for future villagers that are not aligned with their model, like most of the ostrich villagers are definitely not ostriches at all, so it'll be fun to draw them as the birds that they're based on. But for Drago, I mostly just had trouble figuring out the length of his body, because you'll see me redoing his tail and legs a lot. But since he's a lazy villager, I wanted him to be doing a relaxing activity, like drinking some green tea. Originally, I would have had him lounging on a cloud, but that seemed a little too supernatural despite him being a dragon. So I tried my best having him use his own tail as a sort of lounge, making it look as natural as possible, but I don't know if I failed or succeeded at that, to be honest. And also, yes, I did have to trace and paste his little dragon logo onto his shirt. There's never any shame in tracing and pasting, especially if it comes to patterns and logos on shirts. The shading turned out pretty nice. It turns out that the same exact blue I was using to shade the green also looked good on the ivory colors, so I used blue to shade his entire body and just highlighted with yellow. And for the background, I wanted to use a Chinese lettering that would translate into dragon, but I can't tell if it was actually a Japanese kanji character or if it was even an accurate one. I'm definitely not well versed in kanji, but I was just Googling what's Chinese for dragon. But if the character I used isn't culturally accurate, I can always redo it. Drago is a relatively new alligator villager. He was added in New Leaf. I believe all the villagers, except for Roswell and the previous 4 that I drew, are newer. They were all added in New Leaf. Also, I had no idea if the things on his eyes were eyelids or eyebrows. I feel like they're eyebrows because there's pictures of him on the wiki with his eyes closed and the light green pieces are still there. I think Drago is still fairly popular among the fandom. I think people may not like the design of his lips maybe, but I still think he's a very popular and very good looking villager. A lot of people have told me that he's actually rare. Like, are rare villagers really even a thing? I don't think the game has a rare system where certain villagers don't show up as often as others. I think it's all just at random. I don't know. I'm not the Animal Crossing expert, so don't at me. I like if you obtain a picture frame from him, his favorite saying is there's no room for 2 dragons in 1 pond. And the wiki says that that's supposed to be a play on 2 Chinese proverbs. There's no room for 2 tigers on 1 mountain, and dragons are not to be kept in ponds. So, yeah, very philosophical. But yeah, I had a lot of fun with this one. A very unique shape, unique character too. The next Animal Crossing alligator is Gail, and she's the second out of the only 2 female alligators left in existence in Animal Crossing. I know some people may have wanted me to include Liz, who was a female alligator from the old Animal Forest games, but I think it'll be a lot easier for me if I left out the villagers that haven't been rebooted and just focus on villagers that are in New Horizons. It's just easier than having to figure out those old polygonal designs, a tiny bit less to draw, and easier for selling too, just easier in every aspect. I was working on Gail while I was at MomoCon. I had a lot of fun there, but I remember asking my friend's opinion on what pose I should give her, because I was honestly pretty confused on her personality. She has the normal personality type, and I don't know what that's supposed to mean. What's normal about walking, talking animals? But ultimately I went with this sort of cutesy pose and tried to have her stand on her tiptoes, but I could never figure out the legs in order to make that work. So I hope it still looks like she's on her tiptoes. If not, oh well. But her dress was definitely a challenge to draw and get the pattern accurate. I was almost kind of nervous if there were other villagers who wore the same lace-up dress that she wears. But based on Google, I think Gail is the only one who wears it. So thankfully I won't have to draw this dress again, but who knows, I might get surprised. Sketching the dress and doing the line art was the most time-consuming part, I think. Shading was easy though, I just had to use a lot of resin purples for that. Her color scheme being 90% pink is not easy on the eyes for me. Like, I remember having to take a couple breaks just to rest my eyes from all the pink. She's cute, but it's a lot of pink, and I tried asking one of my friends to see if they had Gail on their island, and if they ever gave a different colored version of the lace dress for her to wear, but they said none of them looked good except for black, so yeah, Goth Gail for the win. I think she's a perfect choice for a villager for Valentine's themed stuff, or if you're going for an all pink island, like I said in a different video. This video is the longest I've made so far. It's like at 3 minutes and 40 seconds or something. And I think that's mostly because I'm very indecisive with the pose and everything. I can get that way sometimes when I'm drawing. I just get indecisive and I don't know how I want it to look, but the more I play around with it, the more I eventually get what I want. I think Gail is popular though. I see quite a bit of fan arts for her, both old and new. I think it's a good thing that she's wearing this dress now, because the dress kind of makes her stand out a bit better. The old heart shirt did complement her color scheme a little better than the dress, but honestly, what are we gonna do? Or maybe the dress doesn't hurt the complementary of her color scheme, but it definitely takes away the variety, if you know what I mean. Pretty much everything about her, from both New Leaf and New Horizons, everything about her seems to be about love, about hearts, about very Valentine's-esque things. And honestly, I don't really know what else to say about her. She's just there. She's a normal villager, and she's one of the thousands of cutesy-themed villagers, so there's that. So maybe that makes her a little bit overrated. Who knows? And the background music I chose fits perfectly with that. Alright, so the next Animal Crossing alligator is Roswell, and to my surprise, he is a very popular villager. I posted this drawing on Reddit this morning before I started recording for this TikTok video, and the drawing already has like over 300 upvotes, and it's barely the afternoon. Usually on Reddit I only get like maybe 50 or so upvotes per drawing, but I guess it also depends on the Reddit's weird algorithm and whether or not it shows your stuff to other people. It may also depend on what time I post, because for some of these drawings I would just post them at like midnight or something when I'm staying up late finishing one of them or something, and they'll barely gain any traction, but posting during the daytime may bring more traffic. Who knows? Not me. But anyway, to talk about Roswell, he is definitely one of the more popular alligators, and I think the reason why is because he's kind of an OG from the original Japanese game. And he was brought back very recently for New Horizons, so it's very fascinating to see a villager make such a jump from the oldest game to the newest game and see the change in graphics. This drawing I'm doing here was not my first attempt drawing him. I originally just read that he was a lazy villager and that he was only available on a separate island, and you would have to scan his e-reader card, which was basically Amiibo for the Game Boy Advance back then. And I was like, okay, he's a lazy villager and he's an islander. I'll just draw him laying down and drinking out of a coconut or something. But then I ended up doing more research and found out that he's not a lazy villager anymore. His personality got changed to smug when he got added to New Horizons. So then I was like, oh, never mind, I should give him more of a snarky pose. I also learned that his color scheme and design is based on crop circles. His catchphrase is space, like outer space. He's named after Roswell, New Mexico, which is a city where alien UFOs were believed to have crash landed. And there was a lot more to him at second glance. So now I wanted to depict him as like this fun uncle alligator who likes to tell space stories and geek out about alien conspiracies. And yeah, I can definitely see why he's popular now. And he deserved to be brought back. I do notice now that the drawing is finished that he's a little off center, or maybe he's a little too small because there's a lot of negative space on the bottom of this image, and I can kind of tell that the other alligator drawings are bigger, but I'll fix that later. Choosing a background color was also very difficult, but at the end of the day, this one came out pretty good. We have finally arrived at our final Animal Crossing alligator drawing, and his name is Sly. I never had him on my island, nor have I ever really ran into him in the game before, but he seems to be a pretty cool villager. He's a jock alligator who just has a very unique camo print design, and it's a very cool combination of yellow, orange, and brown camouflage, and it goes very well together. It contrasts pretty good with the green eyes and green camo shirt. Whenever I read more about him, though, I learned that his home has always been jungle-themed, and this is supposed to be a nod to his skills in hiding, obviously, which I think is the little personality quirk the game wants us to know about him. But I think it's better to just view him as a guy who just loves plants. I mean, he fills his house with them completely. Some of them are cutouts, yeah, but still. He collects a bunch of plants, and one of his quotes on the wiki is him talking about how plants give you oxygen to help you work out. And maybe he doesn't just live in the jungle just to hide. I think he just loves nature and knows that he can fit in with it pretty well. Coloring his camo spots might look difficult, but it actually wasn't that bad. It's pretty easy to just alpha lock the layer and fill in whatever color I want to use while using the sketch layer as a guide. I wasn't trying to get his camo exactly accurate because I'm facing him a different way, and it's also just not going to matter when it comes to camo. Because for camo designs, you just have to make sure you're spacing the colors equally. His eyes were kind of scary looking for me. Like I said, I never had him before, so maybe he's more cute in game, but those slit pupils were like staring into my soul while I was drawing. But overall, I think he looks very cool. I will say that I'm definitely going to miss drawing the alligators when I move on to the other animals, and drawing alligators with these very expressive and happy designs kind of makes me appreciate alligators a bit more in the real world. The only alligator-related memory I have right now is when I was ziplining over an alligator pond, and I thought I was going to die, but now I really do think alligators are just chill, and they really don't seem that scary. And it's best to keep your distance, of course, but all these goobers were very fun to draw. I do feel a little bit of a fatigue in my process with Sly here. I feel like I probably could have used better colors for shading, but just didn't because I was getting a little tired. Just a little bit. But now I get to move on to a whole new animal, which means a whole new outlet for creative shapes and expressions, and I won't feel burnt out, hopefully. I'll of course be taking a tiny break and work on other content of mine. Hope y'all enjoyed.